What's up, everyone? It's Jared Adler here from Bethany Medical Clinic. I'm here with Allie Fuller, life coach, personal trainer, overall great individual. She can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Allie Fuller. I actually am a group fitness instructor, so no one's led astray. Jared's building me up way higher than I need to be built up, but thank you, Jared. That was a great intro.
Nice. Well, in terms of like a life coach, I guess that's somewhat of a broad description. So like, could you describe more so like what in general a life coach is, and then like your kind of niche in that field?
Yeah. So people get this confused with like therapy or psychiatry or mentorships all the time. So under the umbrella that is psychology as a whole term, we are all branches within that tree, or we are, raindrops under that umbrella, as it were. So a psychologist in general is someone who studies human behavior, normal, abnormal, everything in between. So a therapist is someone who focuses on your past, and a psychiatrist is someone who takes that past and diagnoses it and then can prescribe you medication to help with that. A mentor is someone who will say, here's my advice and here's my background, here's what I think you should do. And then a life coach is someone who gives you self-reflection and gives you tools so that you can create your own goals to a point where you eventually don't need us anymore, which doesn't always happen with the other three.
Interesting. It's kind of more guiding you than giving direct advice.
Exactly, yeah. We really try to avoid giving advice. I mean, one is just kind of to cover our own butts liability-wise, so that someone can't say, she told me to jump off the cliff, and now I broke my leg. So, and also because my life experience is going to be different than any of my clients, no matter what, no matter how similar we are, no matter if we grew up as next door neighbors, my life experience is not going to be the same as theirs. So I have no right to be giving them advice on what to do, unless so mentorship like that where you're giving advice, that really only works in the business setting if they're literally following in your footsteps in that regard.
Do you have a recent example? It doesn't have to be, it could be from you or someone else.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in general, relationship-wise, if people come to me with relationship problems, I have a couple of clients that are already married. I'm not married, so I am in no place to give them advice. Even if I think, well, I know what I would do in their situation, I'm not in their situation. So maybe what I would do wouldn't be the best because I don't have all the facts. Even though we spend, hours and hours and hours talking about their relationship, I may know everything there is to know about their side of the story. I don't know this other person. So for all I know, they're only telling me half. I'd like to think that my clients are showing up honestly, but even if I were to give advice, at the end of the day, I don't have all the facts.
Yeah. Someone's like, hey, I'm having problems with my wife, we're not communicating. How would you address that?
I would ask them what would be helpful for them to walk away with at the end of the session. I would try and find a way for them to do some self-reflection one-on-one with me without bringing in the other person. Life coaching is all about how can I take responsibility and how can I take some control of what's going on, where a lot of that, where it's interrelational, interpersonal, that turns more into couples therapy or counseling or even therapy one-on-one. So life coaching is a lot of how can I take responsibility for this in a bigger way than I am.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so.
With any field, people kind of put you in certain specialties. I know for personal training, there's functional training, there's your bodybuilding, stuff like that. Is there something similar along the lines for a life coach? Different kind of philosophies that people go for it?
There's different flavors. Yeah. At first glance, yes. It's usually, generally, it's just someone wants to make a big life change. So I have one client who, on a small scale, she wanted to find a new job. She didn't like where she was at. She wanted to find a new job. I had another client who had just had a baby, and she was like, I'm not sure why I'm not happy. I have this baby that I love, and I just don't feel that fulfilled. fulfilled, and I don't know how to find my new passion. Like, I love this child, I love my family, but I want to add on more passion into my life.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it just depends. There's relationship coaches. There are business coaches, which are different than business mentors. So there are business coaches that are great if you want to keep your own identity and not necessarily take advice, but you want to explore how to make your business your own, how to make your own path. Business coaches are great for that. I don't have a specialty yet. I'm still starting out. I've been at it for about 1.5 years, and
Nice.
all the clients that I've worked with come to me with really malleable situations that are just general big life changes.
And you try to give them a different perspective or outside?
Not even that. It's just I try to hold up a magnifying glass to what they're telling me, and I essentially am a broken record, and I repeat things back to them in a way that makes them say, "Oh yeah, I guess I do want that."
Do you have any common phrases that come up over and over that you specifically say?
I try. I mean, obviously, you don't want to say the same thing to every client.
Yeah.
If it were that easy, I feel like a lot more people would be life coaches. So it's not really a doctor going, where does it hurt? But it's more, I start every session by saying, what do you want to take away at the end of this session? Instead of saying, what do you want to achieve? What's your dream? Because that narrows it in, because then it has to be measurable. It puts you in control. It's something that you have the power to complete in the next 60 minutes if you're coaching with me. And it's not something that I'm saying, okay, it's not like personal training where I'm driving the train and I just kind of drag you along. Yeah, like you sit down, like you're the client, you're paying me, so I'm here to serve. What can I do for you? What do you want to bring into your life by the end of this hour? I guess that's the only question that I ask every single client, and then from there it branches out.
Yeah. How did you get into it?
So I moved to the city in 2015 with a bachelor's degree in musical theater.
Nice.
And I spent a couple of years doing that. And it was just one of those things where I fell out of love with it. And they didn't really prepare us in college. I'm really grateful for everything I learned and took away in college, but they didn't prepare us for how much of it is auditioning and feeling like, a number on a sticker or on a name tag, and feeling like it comes down to the color of the dress you're wearing that day as to whether or not you get cast. And so I stopped loving it because I realized that you really don't get to perform that much once you leave college, for most people at least. And so I decided to stop auditioning for a while, and I took my Myers-Briggs personality test, which I highly recommend to anyone listening, because that was kind of what started the ball rolling for me. Because at the end of the test that I took, it listed all the careers that are best for my type, which is INFJ, and apparently I'm less than 1% of the population.
Oh.
So my personality is extremely rare. It made a lot of weird quirks about my personality make a lot more sense and made me feel like less of a weirdo. But acting and performance were nowhere to be found on that list. But the top 3 or 4 were therapy, counseling, coaching, and teaching.
Whoa.
So it was all it was someone hitting me over the head with a baseball bat, essentially. So I was like, okay.
Why do you think that was? Specific.
It had been little breadcrumbs through my life leading up to that, and I was like, oh, like I said, a lot of my personality traits suddenly made all this sense to me, and I was like, oh, I was always the quiet one in the corner at all the college parties, and somehow I would end up with some drunk girl talking to me about her dad in my car at 3 a.m, and I wouldn't know how I got there, and I'm like, wait, what? I've always been the introvert that people just come up and end up telling me their life story without meaning to. You know those people?
Yeah.
And that was part of my breakdown in the Myers-Briggs.
I feel like you said you're 1%. I feel like I'm very similar.
I'd be curious what yours is, because you hit me. Are you an introvert? Can I ask?
A little, I think so.
Okay.
I'm more so, I was thinking if I have a defined role, and if I know what my role is,
right.
I'm very comfortable with it.
Sure.
But otherwise, in this example, like we're doing a podcast, this is meta, like right?
Yeah. No, I love this. This is like what I live for. I don't want to talk about the weather. I want to talk about your personality.
So we're like in this podcast situation. You're the guest. I'm like the host.
So you have to take on that.
So like I know what I have to do.
Yeah, it's the same when I'm teaching. Like I'm an introvert through and through, but I'm also a group fitness instructor. So this morning at 8 a.m. and 12:30, I was like, all right, guys, and I bossed people around for an hour in a nice way, of course, but like
knowing exactly what my role is like very comforting. You mentioned that people look for. They go to you as a form of like as comfort and like because you're a good listener and now you do this for like a living, which is great. But where's your type of, if you have to like express something, do you feel comfortable doing that, or like
if someone like breaks up with me, if I lose a job,
you have something.
If I have so full disclosure, like I talk to a therapist on a regular basis. I think it's something everyone should at least try once, even if you don't think, probably especially if you don't think you need it, because there's no reason to deprive yourself of that opportunity to hear your own words said back to you.
Yeah.
So I talk to a therapist. I have 2 or 3 like really close friends that I trust. But also I have zero poker face, and people can usually tell when I'm upset, unless I'm on the clock, obviously. But yeah, I'm just, I don't know, I'm one of those people that I'm very good at, especially when I'm stressed. I also know how to flip it around and focus on other people.
Was this like when you were young too? Has this always been your personality? Yeah, this
was kind of my defense mechanism growing up when I was upset, is I would like focus on other people.
Who are some of your influences? You mentioned Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I love Tony Robbins. I also like Mel Robbins. They're not related. I just like, they both have very cut the bullshit, pardon my French, kind of style. And I don't really adhere to like the Abraham Hicks, like The Secret, like if you just think about it, you'll create it. I don't really adhere to like that, like not mushy gushy, but I like straight shooters. Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, also Amy Young is one that people are just now starting to discover, but I discovered her through YouTube. She also actually started as an actress in New York City, and now she's a very well-known life coach in the coaching community in Boston. And she's mostly relationship coach, but she also works with like 20 and 30-something women. But yeah, they all have very no BS kind of style.
Tony Robbins himself, he mentions like he's not a motivational speaker. That's like his huge thing.
Yeah, because I've heard that. I've heard that as well. He's very motivating, but it's not because what he's saying is motivating. It's almost.
He motivates you to take action.
He motivates. Yeah, it's not that he's it, because you never hear him say you can do anything.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want. Like, you're perfect. He's not that kind of life coach, and I'm not either, actually. And that's, you actually just pinpointed what it is for him and the other two that I mentioned, that why I like them. And it's because they're not motivational speakers. They almost scare you into taking action, is how I would put it. He makes the stakes so high. And Mel Robbins does the same, and they both raise the stakes so that you walk out of those seminars or those 8-day workshops where you're in a room with 400 other people saying, if I don't take action, I can't even go there. Like, I have to take action. So he almost like scares you into taking action, but in a uplifting way. I don't know.
I know he mentioned. I know he mentioned like fear is a much bigger motivator than like pain is a lot more bigger motivator than pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, because I think I know the piece that you're referring to, and he's talking about why it's so hard for people to lose weight. Like, they stay overweight, and then they hit 50, and their doctor says, hey, you need to cut out sugar or else you have 6 months. And then all of a sudden, oh, boom, they lost the weight. What a miracle. And it's because the stakes were raised, as opposed to, I don't know, because somehow that stake is so much more real and tangible to them than the stakes of, I could be so much happier, I could have so much more energy, I could be so much healthier, I could live so much longer. And it's really interesting, and it's something that I try to avoid in my coaching, because while it is more motivating to operate through fear than excitement, or like motivation to want to do something just because of the positivity it's going to bring you, it's a dangerous move to get into.
Yeah.
But the way that they do it is just so masterful, and they just barely like walk the line.
I know I listened to like cassette tapes that I saw at a thrift shop, and I bought it once. And he mentioned once, he was like, write down, if you go down this path, how do you be in like a year, 5 years, and 10 years. So it was kind of like, he gave you the freedom to project how you were, like how you're going to be. He wasn't like, you're going to end up really bad in 5 years if you keep doing this. But he was like you kind of came to your own conclusion, he guided you. Yeah.
Because at any moment, I think we all know what we should be doing.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Is that I thought about that. I thought about that too. Like, I always agree with that. But then recently I've been like questioning it more so. Like
the idea that like we know what we are supposed to be doing. Well, I mean just on a basis of like, you shouldn't be eating the cake.
That's true.
You shouldn't be texting that guy that broke your heart. You shouldn't be hitting the snooze button for the 6th time. You shouldn't be, X, Y, and Z. I don't know. I think it's just, there's so many addicting habits and practices that the human race has gotten into. Technology is a huge crutch. Food is a crutch. Drugs, alcohol. I think there's just a lot of factors, and it all depends on what is rewarding you just enough to continue that behavior. Because for some reason, you're getting some sort of sadistic, masochistic reward through whatever that behavior is. If you're eating the Cheetos, and it makes you feel safe because you had Cheetos with your mom before she had the heart attack and passed away, and so you eat Cheetos when you're sad, or whether it's, you text that guy because it's better than being alone, because you don't know if anyone else is going to come knock on your door and you're going to, be alone forever. It's like the fear of the unknown that keeps you coming back to that. It could be so many things.
How is it, you mentioned it's like masochistic?
Yeah, the idea of just sabotaging yourself over and over again because you have the certainty of the outcome, even though it's not the perfect outcome.
That's a good point.
Those Cheetos are good, and you know that, you won't be proud of yourself. You'll blow your diet for that day, or you'll go over your calorie count or whatever, but like, you can always start over tomorrow. You know the outcome. And so because of that, it's this loop where it's like, well, what happens, like, if I don't eat the Cheetos and I'm sad, I have to figure out another way to deal with it. That's so much harder, and there's so much uncertainty and panic that comes along with that. Like, I've experienced that, and like, oh my gosh, just my whole fitness journey, my whole life coaching journey, starting a business, there were so many unknowns, and there were so many times when I was like, you know what, like, auditioning sucks, but at least I know what's going to happen every day. Like, I've experienced such a wide spectrum. I know almost every single outcome that happens when I go into an audition. Whereas life coaching and fitness instructing, the first time I taught my class, I was terrified. So I was like, there are so many things, there are so many ways this could go today.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what the other side of it was going to be.
I guess, how would you know when to stop?
When to stop what?
When to, like, if you go after something, and then you keep going, was like,
how do you know
enough
when
is
to
enough?
Give up?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well,
especially with the praise, like, oh, like you work so hard, keep going.
Oh yeah, like that thing of like.
And people love reading.
Like not knowing if you're actually good or if your aunt or your grandma is just telling you you're good. Is that what you mean? Because for me, I used to have that, and I used to like metaphorically hold my family at gunpoint when I got off stage and be like, okay, tell me if I was bad. Don't tell me I was good if I wasn't good. Tell me if I was bad.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, no, you were good. They lied anyway because they love me and they care about me. But
it's that improving to others that like you. Yeah. I don't know how much of a motivation that was. I feel like that's kind of like an unconscious motivation.
Yeah.
That you don't really think of it like, I'm going to prove you wrong, but it definitely plays a part, at least unconsciously, I feel.
It plays a part, but I don't think it's enough to get you there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, sure, I had teachers and I had people and like even some family that didn't think that I was actually going to be on Broadway. And but like it didn't matter to me. That played a part of like, yeah, it'd be great if I proved that teacher or that person wrong. But also at the time, like I really, really wanted it for myself.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like as soon as I was like, I'm not having fun. This is repeatedly bringing out the worst qualities in myself on a daily basis. And I don't care about proving those people wrong. Like, as soon as I stopped being in love with it, I was out. So I think that's how you know. Is like, I am a firm believer that if you truly enjoy doing something, it's because you were meant to be doing that, at least for the time being. And when you're not, you'll know. In my experience. Again, that's my experience. Every situation is different in everybody's lives. But that's my 2 cents on, when to give up a dream, the dream, any dream.
Now what keeps you going now?
Now it's just I'm having fun. Truthfully, like it's like I just said with auditioning, like it started to bring out the worst qualities of my personality that I just got sick of seeing more and more every day. I was really doubtful of my abilities. I constantly just gave myself so much negative self-talk, and it just went on a horrific loop around and around in my head. I constantly had thoughts like, you're too fat, that dress looks stupid, your hair is stupid, your face is stupid, you can't sing that high, that girl's gonna get it and you're not, you should just give up, you're gonna be waiting tables forever. Like just over and over and over again. And something as simple as just taking me out of that world, like I'm just having so much fun now. I was thinking about it earlier, like I used to have goals for 2018, 2019. I was looking in my phone, I was like, I should set goals for 2020 or just something to complete by 2020. And I realized that for the first time in my life, I'm just having fun. Like I'm actually really content just doing this. Like obviously, yes, like if you want to coach with me, you'll get a free session. Like, but it'd be great to be doing more of what I love.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm actually really, really happy with my life right now. Like I don't feel rushed anymore. I used to feel rushed because the way I was living was not sustainable. And I was a candle like burning at both ends, and I was like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Whereas like right now, I have enough work-life balance. I don't get burnt out as often because I love what I do now. That I could do this for a really long time. Like I still, I work at like 8 different studios around the city. I coach, a few clients, still trying to get more, but I'm so happy with where I'm at, and that's what's keeping me going. Is just pure fun, which as cheesy as it sounds.
No, I mean I see it. Like I see how you I feel it, like how you talk about it.
Yeah, and I wasn't like this with auditioning, which is crazy. Like I haven't, like it snuck up on me like this last year, starting to actually work in the field and actually like get really into fitness and realize like, oh, I'm good at other things too. What a relief! Oh my god. And not only that, but I'm like better at these other things, or like people seem to think I'm better at these other things. because I don't remember myself feeling like this ever when I was performing. It was all, again, like acting through fear than excitement, like being like, I need to get this part or else, like, I'm so scared of what will happen if I don't X, Y, and Z.
Oh, I watched like your YouTube videos.
Oh God.
I love
Not an editor.
the failure formula.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty creative.
Thank you.
And what I liked the most was like the non-editing.
Like the outtakes. Yeah.
Those are amazing.
Thank
Those are
you.
by far the like those are, I love that. So it's like raw and stuff.
Yeah.
What like, wasn't that just like a conscious choice? Like, what was the thought process behind that?
It was a choice. It wasn't like as bad as my editing is, or not that bad, but it was a choice because I don't want people to feel like I'm way up here and they're way down here. I don't want them to feel like I can't relate to them. I want people to see that, like, I don't have my shit together some days. I want people to see that, like, this is my real life. And like one of the videos I was in one room, and then another I was in a totally different house because I moved. And I find that the more you're able to like show actual real pieces of yourself instead of just pretending that everything's perfect all the time, people are so much more likely to open up to you and show you their cards if you show yours. And that's just that's why I've always been able to get to know people really quickly, is I am very transparent about, you know, childhood trauma, about mental health. I think in the first 10 minutes I was like, I go to therapy like every 2 weeks, everybody should. And that's not something that really any of my friends would easily admit, or anyone in my life that I know, until I've spoken to them for like maybe 2 or 3 hours at a party. You know, so and that's how I coach too, is like whenever I can share something that makes people feel safer, or that like levels the playing field in a way, you know, I try to open up and I try to share, you know, well, I've tried therapy, and, you know, just to show that there's no shame in that, because empathy is truly like the antidote of feeling shame, or feeling embarrassed, or feeling isolated, or feeling like it's just you and no one else has this problem.
What gives you the courage to put yourself out there?
It's not easy at first. If it's something like, just like anything else, it's gonna feel really, really scary and really, really hard. But the more that you do it, it's like working out. It's like working on a muscle. You get stronger, and it's like breaking a habit, because once you see the payoff over and over again on a consistent basis, you're like, okay, I know that this is going to be positive for them. It's going to make them feel safer, and it's going to reaffirm that I'm not alone, because I've never had a day where I'm like, yeah, I go to therapy all the time, and no one has ever been like, you go to therapy? And then, like, I've never had that negative
association.
Yeah, like I've never seen I'm missing the word, but like, yeah, I've never had that negative reinforcement. It's only ever been them opening up and leaning into the conversation further, because they're like, oh, this is a real person, like I'm safe with her. I don't know. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you know, it's like showing each other battle scars. It's like, yeah, I've been around the block as well. Like, I'm not perfect.
Did you always have that? Was that like a recent effort?
I think it probably started when I was 15 or 16, because I'm relatively young for a life coach. I'm 26, and that catches a lot of people off guard. But when I was 15, my mom actually died by suicide, and when I was 20, my dad passed away from cancer. So I experienced a lot of big life events at early ages.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I discovered that when other people were in pain or sad, I knew what they needed to hear, instead of, you know, because I had already heard all the things that make you more and more sad, or more and more angry when you're already, you know, riddled with grief. And sorrow and misery. Like, they don't want to hear, I'm so sorry for your loss. They don't want to hear, I made you another lasagna. They don't want to hear any of that. They want someone, like, I had that experience way earlier than any of my friends would and will, hopefully knock on wood, but I knew that all they needed at that point was just to, like, sit in the corner with them in silence and, like, let them cry it out. And just knowing the other side of that battle when no one else did, I think just made the difference.
It's great.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's like the exact opposite?
Who's like the exact opposite of me?
No, as in the opposite of like I don't really share any. I like famously don't share anything.
Okay. So the exact opposite of like my personality.
Yeah.
So
I'm honest. I'm like a pretty honest guy because I have a terrible poker face also.
Okay.
But I don't want to.
I mean, if we're going completely other end of the spectrum, I'll go by Myers-Briggs terms because that's the first. That would probably be the most scientific.
Yeah.
Or the most like backed by actual data. So I am INFJ, which stands for introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. So the opposite of INFJ would be extroverted, sensor, thinking, perceiving. So ESTP would be the exact opposite of INFJ.
So what's?
So that would mean obviously they're an extrovert instead of intuitive and like being perceptive to their environment and being an empath and like absorbing other people's feelings. It's the opposite of that where they can kind of put up a shield. This is the best of my knowledge because I'm selfish and I've only done a lot of research on my own stuff. So I know very little about this personality type. But essentially, from what I can remember, it's been so long since I looked at this. And then obviously I'm feeling, because I'm like super emotional. I'm also a Pisces and I follow horoscopes to an extent. And so the opposite of feeling would be thinking by Myers-Briggs terms. And then the opposite of judging is perceiving. Which I think is, that is when, so I am judging. So that means I go into a scenario knowing more or less how it's going to turn out, or predicting, like you subconsciously without meaning to. I kind of go into something knowing like, okay, I'll go in at 10:30, I'll leave. I think. Again, this is the best of my knowledge. And then perceiving is, I will act as I go.
So what would, how do you have someone open up more?
They have to want to.
That's true.
So I mean, short of torture, like you've seen all the spy movies where they like rip people's fingernails out and stuff. Like, someone has to want to open up at some point, or else, there's plenty of people that I've tried to get to open up, like mostly boyfriends, and they either want to do it or they don't.
So, I'm not saying, like, from my perspective, this could be wrong, like, this is just...
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm, like, burdening someone else with my issues. Like, they already have enough to worry about, but I don't want to, like, burden them more so with, like, the issues, and I can just, like, power through it, I think.
Yeah, that's a really common thing, and it's something that I've experienced a lot, too. So, like, especially after my parents died, I felt like I was just a burden to everyone else because all of a sudden, all these people in my family that I wasn't at the time super close to, lots of aunts, lots of uncles from everywhere, like all my friends' parents came out of the woodwork in a really powerful way, but I felt like such a burden to all these people that suddenly had to take care of me and my brother. And it's like, so it's a common thing. It's something that even people with no familial loss or just going day to day, like I still kind of sometimes feel that way with certain friends. Like if I know that they're going through something, you're allowed to also be going through something.
Yeah.
And I just think it's up to you to reach out to someone and find a friend that is willing to listen. And I think most people know who those people are as I'm saying this. you know, and you know that you have those people, and if you don't, they, you know, they can be found in therapists. Like I said, like even if you don't think you need one, I highly recommend anyone listening to try it at least once, because friends are great, but like a trained psychologist that knows how to help you discover things about yourself that you didn't know you needed to discover can just be so incredibly helpful. I can't even begin to tell you.
What, like, is there like an underlying like message?
I mean,
this is what I see this every day, and I have to like express this like everyone.
That's a good question. I think, you know what? Yes. I see too many people keeping things inside out of fear of rejection or not taking risks. I'm not saying bet all the money on the horses, like literally, but like if it's a risk of, you know, starting your own business in a logical way, or just trying something that scares you because of rejection or feeling embarrassed or feeling like you don't know what you're doing and having that self-doubt, but really feeling like the logic is there and but maybe I could do it, just try it. Because when it's things like that, like I said, like don't, you know, bet all your money in poker, don't go to Vegas and like blow your life savings. But when it comes to things like telling that guy or that girl that you like them, or applying for that scholarship, or applying to that college, you know, that program, that school or job or whatever it is, the worst possible scenario is that your life stays the same. So if it's something like that where all that would happen is your life stays the same and you just circle back to where you are right now, just do it. Because there's really no reason not to. Life is too damn short. There's so many things that I already have regrets that that I've dealt with, but like having lost two parents, I now know that neither of them are gonna be there on my wedding day. So that raises the stakes for me, because now I know, okay, I need to make other people in my life know how special they are, because I don't know how long I'm going to have them. In a very macabre way, that it's like the ticking crocodile in Peter Pan with Captain Hook. Like, he hears it and he's continually running around being so aware that like death is like following him wherever he goes. It's kind of like that. It just reminds you life is too damn short. Say what you feel. Like, don't worry, don't care if you get rejected, don't be embarrassed if they turn you down, or if they say we went with someone else, better luck next time, because you tried. And there's nothing stupid or embarrassing or shameful about trying, because you're so much braver than the person who didn't even try. Truthfully. I think that's my message, like, I don't know, an hour and a half later, but that was a very long-winded explanation. But yeah, just try. If your life is going to stay the same if it fails, just try.
What are your favorite like books, resources? I
would say, for not even if you're a life coach, but if you find yourself feeling like a burden, if you're finding this happens to, I have to think the vast majority, every person that I've ever talked to at some point has been like, oh my God, it's not just me. So this book is literally called I Thought It Was Just Me, But It Isn't, by Brene Brown. I love Brene Brown.
I heard of that.
So that's my favorite book of hers that she wrote, but honestly, she wrote, I'm an idiot. But all of her others are also incredible. Big Magic by, I'm blanking on the name, but Big Magic is a really, really famous book about just doing things not because they're going to get you anywhere, but just because you like them and they're fun. But definitely, I Thought It Was Just Me, But It Isn't. If you find yourself experiencing shame and feeling isolated and feeling like, I don't think anyone else has this problem, and I feel so isolated and so alone, like, start with that book, and you'll just feel so much less alone, and you'll know how much better it is to just show your own scars in order to connect with others, and it just moves relationships along so much faster.
how do you like pick out your books? Do you just like go to the bookstore and stuff?
I do a lot of research on just, it depends on the topic, because life coaching has a million different topics. There's books that I've read for starting your own business. There's books that I've read on, relationships. There's books I've read on just like, Brene Brown specializes in shame. And that one has, like, that specific subject is just very near and dear to my heart, because it's something I grew up with. I dealt with anxiety, depression, and like shame is always like the hot bubbling core of that planet that is depression and anxiety. So I think it depends on what I'm looking to improve in my life. Yeah.
Like now we're in a culture like we just overconsume everything.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go about consuming like media or just information? There's like unlimited information out there, and then it kind of is like, oh, like I'm being productive. Like kind of that is kind of along with like the productivity thing. It's like, oh, I'm being super productive. I'm watching all these videos, but it's kind of like when you're not really digesting anything, you're not really like learning that much. You just like watch like a million different things or like consume so much stuff.
Yeah, and I'm bad about that. Like I'm someone that whenever I'm like cleaning or even like making breakfast or something, I have to have something going, and it's usually a podcast, but that also means that I try to, like, if I know that I'm not actually going to be listening and it's just ambiance, I try to make sure it's not something that I actually want to listen to, because then I will never listen to it again, because I'll be like, oh, I've already heard this, but I actually haven't. I think it's just being mindful, and it's something I have to practice on a daily basis, because you're right, there is so much, and like on the subway, like there's nothing to do but scroll Instagram for the 5th time in the last 30 seconds. And I'm one of those repeat offenders of like closing an app and then opening the same one like immediately after. Have you ever done that? Where you like close out of Facebook and then you like turn your phone off, you immediately turn it back on, meaning to go somewhere else.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you just instinctively open up Facebook and you're like, what is wrong with me? But like, in your lizard brain, it's just like, I have to be looking and doing it something or else I'm gonna explode.
And it feels good, like you're accomplishing something. It's just so passive. Like I do this all the time.
Yeah, well, that's why meditating is like so hard I feel like meditating is getting harder and harder for every generation, because we keep being introduced to new stimulus, and so the idea of like sitting and staring at the wall for 60 minutes sounds like torture, because I've tried it and I've explored like the numerous reasons why it's so hard for me, and it's because we have been taught that when there's an awkward silence, or when you're in a group of people and none of you feel like talking to each other, you look at your phone. And it's turned into like you don't even have to do anything productive. You can just like look at like the lock screen and just like scroll back and forth and look at your apps until your stop comes and you get off the train.
Especially if your friend picks up their phone, like you don't want to be awkward.
It's such a symbolic, because then all of a sudden you're the awkward one, even though he's the one that's clearly saying, okay, I'm done talking to you, even though I'm sitting next to you and we can have a connection, which, I mean, I'm an introvert, so I'm getting better at this, but I am still a repeat offender.
So do you meditate now?
I try, honestly. I have been very you caught me red-handed with this question, because I can feel my brain being like, uh-oh, red alert. I've been trying, and it's been like my therapist has even given me homework to meditate more, but I was doing okay for a while, but then I moved. I think I told you that. I moved last month. I also picked up 2 new fitness jobs last month. The summer is starting to wind down, so my clients are coming back from break for coaching sessions, so things are starting to pick up. Excuse me, but I think maybe that'll be my goal for the end of 2019. It's just to like meditate like 3 times without stabbing anybody.
I know I read this book recently called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. He also wrote Deep Work, which was like amazing. But what I took out of it was like, I guess obviously, like if you use your phone less, so I've been trying to like use it less and like be more like aware,
and more present.
more present. But then, so let's.
What comes up for you? Let's coach this.
For like if I'm on the subway and do it, that's always a spot. Like I'll just like watch other people.
And you probably look crazy.
Yeah.
You probably, or you feel like you look crazy because everyone is like, is this guy homeless? Why doesn't he have his phone out? Like, what is he planning?
That's also
like,
a big thing too.
Like,
yeah, like if you see someone with their phone, they're like look a little weird, and then they have their phone, you're like, okay.
Yeah, because they're normal. They are not trying to be weird. They're just weird. But then if you see someone who's choosing not to use their phone, you're like, ooh,
or
like
headphones.
what is he doing that he's distracted enough to not be using his phone? Like, what's going on in his brain? That's interesting. Do you find that it's helping you?
It seems like you get more aware of like watching your thoughts, but then but now I'm kind of trying to DIY it kind of without my phone. As in, I'll think of a question, I'll try to like work on the question, so I'll still try to be like
interesting,
obnoxious about that like productivity thing, like quote unquote.
Yeah.
Where I always like if I listen like, oh look how many
you're like look how many books I got for this week. Yeah,
oh my gosh.
I'm not that person either.
Like I'm a pretty being like a disciplined individual. It doesn't mean though that there's also interesting where that comes from. But being an interesting disciplined individual, like doesn't mean that you like stuff that other people like less. As in, like if you don't eat like ice cream and like donuts all the time, you still love ice cream. But I feel like people kind of don't realize that.
Yeah.
How would you? So I'm saying like how would you give yourself permission? Like I feel there's both ends of the spectrum. There's people who like just over binge on stuff, but then how do you give yourself permission? I guess for myself to like be able to relax, be like it's okay. You're not like wasting your time. You're not being like.
Yeah. Is this with food only, or is this
with
full
food?
spectrum?
It's not really.
So just like watching Netflix instead of reading an audio.
It would kill me. It would destroy me.
Really?
Jesus.
Are you like a workaholic? Do you consider yourself a workaholic?
I feel guilty if I'm not. I work pretty hard.
Do you like? Does it feel like work to you?
So yeah, there's a boundary where, like maybe I like working a little more than someone else, or like practicing a little more. But then it's also like there's a feeling of I feel like there's a bar where it's like you're good enough. Everyone has like a different bar for themselves. So then for me to not mess up at all and be like perfect, like I'm good enough, which is obviously impossible.
Yeah.
So if I were
sorry.
You
go
go.
ahead. Okay. Who set that bar for you?
Maybe my.
Not to get.
Yeah.
Not to like.
Maybe my parents or myself. Like.
Are they still the ones?
Not anymore. And I'm so extreme in that regard. Like I go so hard.
What is that rewarding you with? What's the reason that you keep coming back to that instead of the uncertainty of lowering the bar?
Well, I guess. Well, can we say it again?
Yeah. Also, disclosure. You can like shut down the other curtain at any point, because this is just like what I do without thinking about it. So I can't remember how I worded it, but essentially.
Like who sets?
Yeah. So what is the reward that you keep getting that is causing you to repeatedly keep the bar so high?
It's more of like a fear of not doing it.
What would happen if you lowered the bar?
I feel like failure.
Okay.
It would be like
on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, in terms of work ethic, where do you see yourself? Like, if you're being honest. Like, if you're looking at yourself as whoever your direct supervisor is.
I mean, I go extreme either way. So I'm not a workaholic in everything. I'll go super hard in some stuff, but then do like the minimum. Like
Because you're exhausted.
Or like other stuff. Like stuff that I don't really care about.
Okay.
I'll just like literally do like the minimum amount for them.
In terms of like food or the overarching theme of not feeling like you're doing enough raising the stakes, or feeling like you need to be firing at all cylinders all the time instead of like doing an okay amount or doing like enough for everyone. I think it just comes down to figuring out what is the reward that is feeding this weird perfection monster inside of you, and how can you substitute something else for that reward so that you keep that work-life balance, or so that you don't burn out, so you don't blow the tire, and instead of trying to finish the race and like ruining the rims, or like, I don't know, car stuff, but like is that the rim? It's the rim, like the tire and then the rim on the inside. Okay. Yeah, so like, because you've seen people in the movies that like blow the tire, but they're still trying to escape the cops or whatever, so they ruin their rim, and in a real life scenario, that would cost them way more money and time than just pulling over and fixing the flat tire. It's the same idea, because like, if you burn out, it's because whatever you're doing is not sustainable. So if you're crash dieting, that's not going to be sustainable. That's why everyone gains it all back. That's why diet culture makes so much money, is because people keep coming back thinking the next time it's going to work because it worked the first time. Well, no, it didn't, because you, like, as soon as you stopped the diet, you gained it all back.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a stat that says 95% of diets fail in 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And it's because it's restricting you. So it's, or it's like, yeah, it's the people that work really, 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 really hard, and then they do horrible things like jump off buildings. Or there was a guy on my murder podcast who was under a lot of stress at work. He was putting his family in a lot of debt because he was betting on actual horse races, funny enough. And one night he woke up and apparently in his sleep drove his car to his his mother and father-in-law's, and like killed the whole family. And he claimed he was sleepwalking the whole time, and the jury's still out on whether or not it was like stress-induced. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I heard about like the sleepwalking.
Yeah, and when people are under a lot of stress, like it's just it just puts you so much farther back than you would be if you just slowed down a little bit. You know, or it's that girl at the, do you remember that one year in the Winter Olympics? It was way long ago, I was still a kid, but like she was a snowboarder for the US team, and she was like way, like yards and yards ahead of everyone else. She was a clear front runner, and she goes to do this one like show-offy trick, and she eats it, and she got like 7th place.
Oh.
And it's stuff like that where it's like, you don't have to be,
Sucks.
yeah, like, it's just, if you just like slow down, take your time and focus, that's gonna get you so much farther. If you just take care of yourself, than trying to do it all at once, trying to prove everybody wrong, because that's how you wake up one day being like, oh my god, I hate my life. Or like, oh my god, I'm sick, or oh my god, I have diabetes and I have 6 months to live unless I change everything about what I'm doing.
How do you overcome like the not being enough?
It doesn't come from anybody else.
That's true.
And it doesn't come overnight. Those are the two things that I know for sure. It's something, it's a lot of these really deep-seated self-turmoil ideas that we've talked about are like muscles that you work in the gym. Like today I'm gonna work on my self-doubt, because it's something that if you don't focus on a lot, it tends to come back. Or if you ignore it for a while, or if you feed the negativity monster, it'll get bigger and it'll come back until you deal with it again. So every new level you reach in your life, a lot of these problems tend to resurface. So you'll notice like a lot of people see in relationships, they'll be like, oh my god, I broke up with this other guy because he couldn't communicate, and now I have this new guy that can't communicate. You know, is it me? Did I just not learn anything? And a lot of times it's just that you just have to flex that muscle again, and you just have to use what you learned before, and it's going to get a little bit easier every time, but it doesn't happen overnight. I still deal with self-doubt. Over the summer I was like, oh my gosh, where are all my clients? And then the next day I get an email and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry I was on vacation, or oh, I'm so sorry we moved, or oh my gosh, I got locked out of my email, I'm so sorry, can we meet tomorrow? And then it's just reinforcing and just getting evidence for yourself. Don't wait for other people to give you evidence that you're enough, because if you truly ask yourself, okay, what do I need from everyone else? At what point will I reach the finish line of I'm enough? And the answer is you won't. Unless like it's a finish line that you have to draw on the floor where you are right now. Or else you simply will not get there.
Well, I guess that's why I like tangible. I don't know if like you were mentioning the personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel as if like I pick things up well. People talk to me, like you were saying, the party thing.
You're an empath, like you absorb emotion.
Yeah.
Like you don't come into a funeral and like still acting like it's a party, because I know people that do that, or they walk into a party acting as if it's a funeral and there's no way to cheer them up because they're just like, this is my emotion and this is where it's at.
Yeah, definitely don't do that.
Yeah, so empaths are different, where like if they walk into a funeral, they could be super happy and they're like, oh my god, everybody's sad, why do I feel so sad all of a sudden?
Maybe, but then I also feel like I gravitate, I don't know if it's in reaction or how I am, I gravitate more towards, like I love numbers and like stats.
Okay.
Because I feel it's very black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to, I guess with the working out, or I used to pitch, and I was obsessed with throwing like 90 miles per hour. And
like
then,
with that number specifically?
well, it's like 90 was like always like the number to make the big leagues.
Ah, okay.
And then what really, like I really just loved was this guy. He was like, okay, to throw 90 miles per hour, I love this thought process. This is my thought process of everything. Like throw 90 miles per hour, and then you break it down into, you have to squat double your body weight. You have to like power clean 1.5 times your body weight. And it was like all tough numbers to hit. Like that's impressive numbers. But
it was
so tangible. Yeah, instead of just like throw 90, it's like a magical gift you get when you're born.
Did you pitch 90?
Through 85.
Okay. I love how you said that as if you were like, and then I lost my job, or and then my cat died. Like, I can't throw 85.
Yeah, I mean,
I probably never will throw 85, and I know a lot of people that won't throw 85.
Yeah. But I don't know. I loved that process so much.
Yeah.
So I don't know, would I be more, because I feel like that's like pretty illogical. That's a logical way, and then like I love like the logic behind it.
Oh well, yeah.
And like, but then
it's what we all want. It's certainty. It gives you certainty. That's why we love diets. Is because on paper, for only $79.99 a month, you can get this pre-decided week of meals that if you eat everything and you do everything they say, you will lose this amount of weight or your money back. You know, that's how commercials go, is by statistics. That's how people sell things. It's by numbers backed by science. So like it's just certainty. That's all that we want. That's why people get their palms read. That's why people do tarot cards. That's why people do the same shit to themselves over and over again, is because they know the outcome. Like I said, like I know so many other people that watch Parks and Rec and The Office a million times rather than chance like one new movie on Netflix, because we're all like, well, I don't know if it's going to be any good, even though it says 98% matches what I would like. Yeah. I know that the episode where Ryan starts the fire in the office is way, like, I know that I'm going to have a good time with that, even though I know it's going to happen. But it's the uncertainty that keeps people back. It's what if I get rejected? What if, you know, like, I don't know, it all goes back to the uncertainty, the unknown, not knowing if you're going to have a good time or not, essentially.
If there was a billboard, if you could put up a billboard, what would it say?
If I had a billboard?
Yeah, you could, like, it's huge, New York City.
Better call Saul. No, I'm kidding. I think it would be, worst case scenario, your life stays the same. That would be like if I was a salesman selling my life coaching business, that would be like my cheesy.
Yeah.
You know, because that's true. Like with so many of the things we try, so many of the diets, so many of like the first dates that we're terrified to go on, so many of the jobs we don't think that we're right for, that we can't get hired for. That's all it is. It's like worst case scenario, you wake up tomorrow and you try again.
That's good.
You know?
All right, where can we find you online?
So I have a coaching website at alliefullercoaching.com. And if you click the booking button, I can offer you a free consultation session for 45 minutes. And I'm on Instagram at Allie Fuller Coaching, and I am on YouTube, I think just at Allie Fuller, I'm pretty sure. How did you find me? I forgot to ask you.
I searched
Life Coach NYC.